Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me going through the process of creating a dungeon. So I have some notes here that I've been writing down, sort of like how I did the challenge rating video. So we'll go through this and I'll go through my thoughts and the process I use. Some of these encounters are not balanced for the challenge rating, like the challenge rating video, but this gives you a good starting point, and you can combine the two if you aren't confident in making encounters that are winnable for your players without using the challenge rating system. This will be designed for a level 5 party, and I'm assuming 4 or 5 characters, so we're not going crazy on numbers this time like we did the last. I will be utilizing older dungeon exploration rules from different versions of the older D&D games and the newer games that are not directly Dungeons & Dragons, like the old school essential dungeon delving rules. So every turn outside of combat, you check for an encounter, and for, say, this is going to be a 3-level dungeon, so for the first level, I'll have a separate random encounter table, and then for the second, third level, if I even use the random encounter for the third level, I'll have a different random encounter table. But you check every turn on a D6, and on a 1 or a 2, you have an encounter. You could switch that up on a 5 or a 6, you have an encounter. And the random encounters don't have to be deadly. They're just things that are interacting with the dungeon that now are interacting with the players. So an example is for the first level of the dungeon, my random encounter table is you would roll a d4 if you have a random encounter, and you would get 2d6 fire beetles. Fire beetles are like a challenge rating 1/3. I'd probably only give them 1 hit point for this encounter. So the party could pretty much mow through that pretty quickly, but they'd be annoying if they keep just pestering the party and attacking. Or if they swarm the guy in armor, I would probably say one of the beetles would be hit him without me having to roll. So he'd take like D2 damage. Then the next encounter for the number 2 spot is a D6 dire rats. Then I got 1d4 slimes. Slimes I take from In the Labyrinth, the fantasy trip. Think oozes that are about the size of a big rat, or a little bit bigger. Maybe a small dog. And there would be a d4 of these. I would use dire rat stats for these, so they're similar to the dire rat encounter, except they just make a touch attack instead of a bite attack. So I'm looking at touch ACs for slimes. Also, alternatively, I'd give slimes like up to 10 hit points, but their AC would be easy to hit. And from there, I'd also go, if you hit them with a flask of acid, it kills them. And that is something I'd have to make aware to the spellcasters who have Knowledge Arcana, because this would be something that they would roll for and be able to use. And then for the last spot, I have D3 zombies or skeletons. And for a 5th level party, all these should be real easy to blow through. But if you have a few of these, you're making noise, so you're alerting what's in the dungeon. And you could have possible more random encounters because you're making noise. So let's go back into this and figure out what I was doing. So this is going to be a crypt with 3 levels. The doors to the front are not locked because this is where the dead are brought for this family crypt, this family mausoleum. And it's in the middle of a graveyard. So if I wanted to, I could have my own graveyard random encounter table where they could encounter certain things during the day and then certain undead during the night, like ghouls and skeletons and such. For the level 1, I want to have 3 different entrances into the dungeon. The main entrance is going to be the doors into the mausoleum. I want to have 4 rooms on this level, and I want to have 6 corridors. So the 2 entrances that are, say, hidden are hidden further out, and there'll be corridors that lead to a room, and then from there those rooms lead into a center room, which would be my last room, and then this first room that you come through the door would lead to the middle room. So you're looking at like a T setup. There are rumors of recent noises at this mausoleum. So people seen stuff in this graveyard, but they've seen stuff in this graveyard all the time. I'm playing this more like an H.P. Lovecraft graveyard where ghouls and stuff are always active at night. But I would say there's been a lot more rumors of disturbances at this mausoleum than normal. Outside, the things that are making the noise in the dungeon, the things that have brought the attention, is going to be goblinoids, goblins, and bugbears. They have hired 2 gargoyles to watch the entrance, and the gargoyles will use their freeze form to take the form of statues at the entrance. So the party's first encounter is going to be with these 2 gargoyles that are guarding the entrance. And just play that as you will. It is always fun. After that, the first room is going to have goblins. I'm going to do 3 times the party in goblins for this room and 2 bugbears. But the goblins, I'm going to treat them like 4th edition goblins. So they're goblin minions. They have 1 hit point. You hit them, you kill them. And since this is a 5th level party, if they drop a fireball, I'd probably just say the goblins and the fireball die. I wouldn't even have to roll anything for it. And they, XP wise, I'd give them 25 experience per goblin. Since there's only 3 times the PCs, I would give 3 times 25 for each PC that killed, for the goblins killed. So that would be 75 experience for that encounter just from the goblins. And then the bugbear experience would be added up and divided amongst the players. Room 2 is going to have 2 times the PCs in goblin minions. And this is going to have 3 bugbears. And in this room, there will be stairs that go down. So this is the center room in that design that I was talking about. Room 3 and 4, so the rooms to the east and the west, would be empty for the most part. Describe them as crypt rooms, some skeletons that have been laid to rest, so on and so forth. And they would have the hidden passages that go out or that come in if you find them outside. So they would be decorated, and in these rooms I would roll for random encounters just to see if anything was in there at the time the party comes in, or if anything is entering there as the time the party comes in. And not all random encounters have to be combat, as you'll see on the 2nd level list of random encounters. The 2nd level, I don't really have a map in mind yet or sketched out, but there's 3 ways to get to the 2nd level, and the party's only going to know of the main stairs that go down. The main stairs that go down, and then there's 2 tunnels leading up to the graveyard. In the graveyard, the DC to find them is going to be 20. If they are searching in the general direction of these passageways, when I designate what rooms they're in on a map, the DC to find them from underground is going to be probably like 15. I'm not going to go super crazy because it's just another way in and out of the dungeon. There will be 12 rooms on this floor, 8 corridors. So some of the rooms are jetted back to back. Like, example, my house, my living room is directly connected to my dining room, is directly connected to my kitchen. There's no corridors, no hallways to walk down to get from one place or another. So some of these rooms are going to be stacked up like that. There will be 2 hidden rooms. 1 of the hidden rooms and 4 of the rooms are going to be occupied. So these are the ones that I'm going to populate. The rest, they'll roll random encounters as they're exploring, and they'll roll random encounters as the turns go by. So the encounters I have set up for this floor, notes for this floor is ghouls and undead. There's a lot of ghouls and undead. So the goblins haven't made it down here. They don't do anything down here. They might have been captured, like say 3 goblins went down here to explore and they might have been captured by some ghouls. Who knows? Add more flavor and your party will always love it. So with the ghouls, there will be an encounter where there's just 4 ghouls. That should be an easy encounter as far as ghouls go. There'll be an encounter where there's 6 ghouls, which should be difficult if the party's outnumbered. But it shouldn't be impossible because ghouls aren't very challenging challenge rating wise. There'll be a ghast and 4 ghouls as an encounter. Then probably in the hidden room where I'll put probably put a bunch of treasure. I haven't decided, I haven't went through 100% all the treasure yet that I want to put in. So there'll be 3 ghasts and 3 ghouls in the hidden room. The other hidden room is going to be a hidden treasury deposit that the ghouls haven't found, that the people that currently visit and bury their dead don't know about. So if the party finds it, DC to find it's probably going to be like 17 or 20. It's not going to be crazy, especially for a 5th level party. So the random encounters for level 2, there are 6 of them. Out of these 6, 4 of them are guaranteed to be combat encounters for the most part. Party could run, party could distract them with food, and the ones that could distract with food is the giant centipedes and the slimes, which are the first 2 encounters. You have 2d4 giant centipedes, which they're more or less like fire beetles. 1 hit pretty much kills them. You have 1d4 slimes, like I explained before. You have 1d6 skeletons or zombies. So this is where some of the undead in the crypt are starting to move around more. There's more negative energy here without it being like a concentration of negative energy. There's you could have a random encounter with a d4 ghouls. These could be moving from one place to another. They maybe have caught a meal and are devouring it in the room that you go in, so on and so forth. Add flavor. Always add flavor. The last 2 encounters, you can encounter a ghost, which I will not play as the monster ghost. I would play it more like, say, someone that's been murdered or a dead soldier who's reliving a scene, or who attacks the party by just running through a party member and does like a D4 non-lethal damage. It wouldn't be anything that would be detrimental to anything going on. I'd just say that he couldn't heal that specific non-lethal damage for a day, at least not until he rests. And then the last one would be creepy noises, bleeding walls, something like that. Something that'll just freak the party out, especially if they go for a couple of rooms with no encounters, or they see eyes in the darkness glowing at them, and then when they bring light, they don't see anything. Now, if you want to make ghouls even creepier, you could play them like their traditional lore on ghouls and have 1 or 2 of them just start eating a brain of something. And when they interact with it, it has that creature's personality, not theirs. They're still a ghoul as far as a ghoul goes, but now they have the knowledge of the creature, mannerisms of the creature, of the brain they just ate. And if the brain's fresh enough, they could take the form of it like a changeling. So that would creep out some of the players, especially since that's not in the regular rules for ghouls. Now, eventually you'll find stairs that go down to level 3. This level, there is the only area in this level that's going to have undead as a main encounter setup is the first room. So you have the main stairs go down, you have 4 rooms. Room 1 is going to have an altar with 2 D4 ghouls in this. So this encounter might actually get pretty bad for the players, especially if they try to do this whole dungeon in one go. If they say cleared level 1 and then retreated, I'd go back and populate, say, room 1 with some undead, or room 2 with some undead. Just throw a little bit of undead at them and not repopulate the whole thing, and just allow all the rooms to be random encounters after that. If they cleared a lot of this dungeon and then come back, well, most of it's just going to be random encounters. And even then, it's not going to be that bad because they've already cleared stuff. and made out with some loot, as I'll explain further in on this. So level 3, like I said, 1 maze stairs down, 4 rooms. Room 1 has the stairs, altar, and 2d4 ghouls. Room 2 has a pool in the room. Think a big bath, or think Olympic-sized swimming pool. Doesn't matter, just be very descriptive, and there's no creatures in it that the party knows of. And then room 3 is going to have a bunch of statues and murals celebrating the victories and life of the noble hero that is buried in this part of the crypt. And room 4 has the burial sarcophagus of the noble hero. And he is buried with some magical items, which I have yet to determine, but would make sense. You just think what you would bury with a very well-known, probably mid-level fighter or paladin. He'd be buried with his weapon, he'd be buried with his armor, a shield. He might have another magical item that you could just roll randomly on the magical item table. So now since we're talking about treasure, let's dive into treasure. After doing all this, I've developed my treasure as goblin treasure. So each goblin has a D percentile copper pieces. Every time you kill one, they have a guaranteed D percentile each copper pieces. They have 1d10 silver pieces, in addition to their regular gear. Bugbear has D percentile silver, D percentile gold. They have 1d6 gems worth 150 gold each. Ghouls, their treasure is treasure they've taken off of corpses. So this treasure might stand out if they try to sell it at town, unless they say melted it down, removed the gems, or tried to sell it at a different town. So necklaces, rings, earrings, gold, silver, maybe platinum, but I wouldn't give them that, because platinum can really shift your game quickly. And they all have gems in it. Well, some of them have gems in them. And their value will be 100 gold to 250 gold per ghoul. So you could randomize that in a way. You could do it by 25s, you could do it by just 100 to 150, 200, 250 gold for the value of the thing. And it could be, say, the necklace is worth more because there's more of it, so on and so forth. The ghast's treasure is the same as the ghouls, so everything we just said before, plus they carry 2d6 gems like the bugbears that are worth 150 gold pieces each. The hidden treasure room on level 2 will have 1d6 level 4 through level 2 spells on scrolls. There'll be a magical weapon hidden in this room. There'll be a wand hidden in this room with probably like 3d6 charges, and just roll randomly, see what the wand is. There'll be a magic shield in this room. So this is some of what a hero would carry, but this is not what's in the hero's sarcophagus. And then in addition to that, I would throw in a couple of more random items like boots and hats and stuff. I just roll on a random magic table and figure out what they get. From here, if you loot any of the corridors on level 1 or 2 that have the bones that have been laid to rest, and it takes time to loot. So if they're doing this, they're going to burn turns, so you'll be checking for random encounters while they're sitting there looting. The treasure, they can get rings, earrings, necklaces of about 100 gold pieces for one area. So in total, like say they loot Corridor A. Corridor A, it has 100 gold pieces worth of rings, earrings, necklaces, and so on. So after that, it would be empty of any treasure they could take. But that could also take, say, if a turn represents 10 minutes, you could roll a d4 and say it takes them that many turns, and then you make a check for each turn on the encounter table. Next to the list, which I haven't done yet, would be the noble heroes gear. And that's how I'd set up the treasure for this. There might be a bounty in town on goblins, so they might be collecting ears or heads of goblins for a bounty. but that could be just in addition to what they're getting. So maybe there's a bounty of a gold per goblin head, and maybe 5 gold per bugbear head, or 10. And then for the ghasts and the ghouls, there might be a bounty from the church on those. All depends on how you want to pay your players, if you want to pay them any more than the treasure there, or if the town wants to pay any more, so on and so forth. It's how you've built your lore. And this would be the crypt dungeon. Now, if I wanted the players to come back at this at higher level, after exploring this once completely, I could put rumors in, or they could find an old journal from the one that buried the hero, and he could talk about the hero was buried on top of a deeper dungeon, and then his crypt itself becomes a hidden door that the party needed a key for that came with the journal, and then they can go back, open that up, and then I could create more levels to this dungeon. And that's how I could expand this dungeon as well. If this is helpful for everyone, let me know. I know it's kind of a little haphazard without a map to look at, but hopefully I explained everything good enough. If anyone else has created a dungeon similar to this, let me know. If this can be useful for others, or if this was too complicated, just let me know. Until we meet again.